Soundproofing an existing wall, ceiling, or floor, you might think that, how am I going to do that? It's already there, there's not much that I can do, and some people are just telling me to slap around some acoustic foam onto the wall and it's going to get it done. Well, there are ways that you can do it yourself. Soundproof the walls. Well, the reason why this video is all three, because soundproofing the wall, the floor, and the ceiling, especially the wall and ceiling, there are a lot of similarities because it's already there. And this video, we're not going to tear anything down. It's not about that. It's about keeping what's already there and adding on and what actually works. And we'll start right now with the walls. And I did say that some people often mention acoustic foam and acoustic panels to soundproof a wall. What this does, it sound deadens the sound inside the room. So if there's a lot of echo, it'll deaden the sound inside your room. It's not going to block the noise coming from the other room. So one thing that this does is if you are wanting to soundproof your own noise, this is where you should start. Because before trying to block any of the sound, you want to reduce the amount of echo that you're producing. So if there is a lot of echo and you notice that it is noisy and you want to deaden some of that noise to not annoy the people on the other side of the wall, that's where you should start. Put some acoustic foam, acoustic panels onto the wall, and you will realize that the noise within the room has decreased because a lot less echo and everything is a lot more deadened. Now, that is not going to necessarily stop a lot of the noise from still going outside the room, because if you do reduce the echo, you will essentially reduce what the other people hear on the other side of the wall. It won't be so annoying. It'll be at a different frequency. So it might not be less in decibels, but if the higher frequency went down to a lower frequency noise, then it's less annoying to the people around you. And this is typical for, let's say, gamers, people that screams inside the room and are so annoying. Well, if you do add some sound deadening, it might just make the noise less annoying. So you might not actually have to soundproof the wall or ceiling. But if the room is already treated, if there's enough furniture, enough plush material in the room that soaks up the noise, then you'll have to block the noise going into the room or out of the room. It's basically the same thing. If you're trying to block the noise that you're making versus the noise that they're making, then it's essentially the same thing. You already have drywall on the wall. You don't want to rip it out. Same thing with the ceiling. You can add an extra layer of drywall. 5/8 of an inch drywall is better than what you probably already have on the wall, which is a 1/2 inch layer of drywall. So by adding an extra layer of thicker drywall, this type of drywall doesn't cost much more money than the 1/2 inch drywall, just a few dollars. And if you're doing just one wall or even multiple walls and ceilings, it's good to add the extra thickness because it's going to produce better soundproofing. But this type of drywall is also heavier, so if you're going to do it yourself, you might want somebody helping you. You can also buy a more specific soundproofing drywall. Now this could be double the price of a regular 5/8 of an inch drywall. The thing is, it doesn't really work that much better. You might see a little bit of the results, but really, you're better off to just add the second layer of drywall and save your money. Now you can add something in between the wall and the drywall, same thing with the ceiling, which is called mass-loaded vinyl. Now mass-loaded vinyl is a rubber type mat. It comes in a roll and it's very heavy. Usually it's basically a pound or 2 pounds per square foot. But the 2 pounds does cost a lot more than the 1 pound. So it all depends where your budget is. If you have a bigger budget, then add the 2 pounds mass-loaded vinyl. If not, add the 1 pound. I'll have links in the description below of everything I talk about in this video, so all you have to do is unroll it, put it on the wall. Don't use glue, however, to install the mass-loaded vinyl. Use a nail gun or an industrial staple gun to attach it. But make sure that the entire wall has mass-loaded vinyl on it. If you only do half of the wall, you're not really going to get that much results. And also you can buy a special type of tape to fill in the seams between the two sheets of mass-loaded vinyl. You can add this on the ceiling also. The thing is with the ceiling, if you're trying to get rid of footstep noise, adding mass loaded vinyl, you're not going to get the results that you're probably hoping for because you're dealing with structural noise. You're still going to hear and feel the vibrational noise of the footsteps. However, if you are wanting to get rid of airborne noise, people talking, just general noise like that, that doesn't really create any vibrations, then using mass is the way to go. If you are dealing with footstep noise, then unfortunately, you'll need to remove the drywall and add something called a resilient channel. But since you want to soundproof existing walls and ceilings, you don't really want to get into that. And once the mass-loaded vinyl and the extra layer of drywall is installed on your wall and ceiling, you will notice quite a difference in terms of soundproofing. But if you don't want to add another layer of drywall, if it's too daunting for you and you don't really have the funds to hire somebody to do it, there are still things that you can do to soundproof the wall. Ceiling, there's not much else that you can do. But one thing to remember, if you are going to soundproof, you will need to buy outlet extenders and also light fixture extenders. But one thing that you want to use around to basically seal it more, because all of these electrical boxes, they have holes in it. And since your wall and ceiling is already finished, then it's already closed off. You can't go behind it and seal those holes. But you can still seal the separation between the drywall and the electrical box or the light fixture and also the wall outlet. Just make sure to shut off the breaker to those outlets and lights just in case you have a freak accident. Now what you can use to seal that gap, usually it's not really a large gap, but any types of holes, gaps and cracks can and will let noise in and out of the room. So seal it with something called acoustical sealant. Now acoustical sealant, what it does, it stays rubbery over time, especially for the ceiling, because if you just add something that cracks, a cheap caulking that is not silicone base, then it'll just crack and it's basically useless, especially on the ceiling. It won't last. If your wall isn't too big, what you can do is you can buy or build a wall unit. Just make sure it's from floor to ceiling. Fill it up with books or with totes with things in it. Obviously, a little bit more than what I have. All of those things is going to block and absorb the noise coming out or leaving the room. But make sure to have a backing. You don't want this to be the wall, because what you can do is you can add a layer of mass-loaded vinyl in between the wall and the unit. Just add it onto the unit so you don't damage the wall. And if your budget or you don't really want to build a wall unit or a big bookshelf because you also don't have anything to put on it, it's perfectly fine. You can still soundproof the wall a little bit by adding some heavy drapes. Now, this is more of a sound deadening material and it's not going to block as much noise as you might hope, but it does work pretty well. The only thing is you have to buy very thick drapes, basically the stuff that they use in movie sets. These are thick, these are long, they're heavy. Just make sure to encompass the entire wall, floor to ceiling. This will work better in reducing the noise that you're making for the people outside the room. But it's not going to reduce a lot of the noise from them coming to you. So let's say you're in your bedroom and you're making, you're having some extracurricular activity and you don't want the people on the other side to hear that. Well, something like a heavy drape could be an option for you. Now let's soundproof the floor, existing floors. You don't want to rip that out. You're not going to add any mass onto the floor. Most likely you want to sound deaden or soundproof your footsteps from the people below. One thing that you can do, it sounds pretty obvious, is to add cushioning onto the floor. Either add some carpet or just an area rug where you'll be walking, or a runner into a hallway. That really helps in deadening the noise, and having something in between the runner and the floor or the area rug and the floor like mass-loaded vinyl, it will deaden the sound even more and it will block a little bit of noise. But it's not going to block that much noise unless it encompasses the entire floor or at least the majority of the floor. And that's pretty well it for the floors. It's pretty simple. There's not much that you can do for existing floors. But if you want more information on actually removing the drywall and the ceiling and seeing what you can do to soundproof the room even more, this video will show you how. Let me know in the comment section below what you did, what you're going to do in terms of soundproofing, if it worked in the past, if it didn't work. I'd like to know, and I'm sure everybody else would also. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, assuming that you subscribed.